Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into an incredibly transformative process that can happen right in your own backyard. We are talking all about how to make compost at home.
Right off the bat, did you know you can literally turn your everyday kitchen and garden waste into black gold for your plants, all from the comfort of your home? Well, you absolutely can. It sounds like magic, but actually, it's just brilliant biology. And hey, even if you're a complete beginner and have never grown a single plant in your life, stick around because I promise you're going to learn everything you need to succeed right here. Okay, so let's dive right in by defining exactly what we're talking about. Composting is the managed, aerobic, biological decomposition of organic materials by microorganisms into a stable, nutrient-rich soil amendment. Now that sounds like a mouthful, right? But the absolute key word here is aerobic. This is an oxygen-fueled process driven by billions of living organisms, things like bacteria and fungi. They are doing all the heavy lifting for us, breaking down your leftovers into a rich, dark substance called humus.
Now, you might be wondering, why should you even care? Well, take a look at this number, 400 to 600. That is the amount in pounds of organic waste that a typical home composter diverts from the local landfill every single year. According to the EPA, food residues make up over 21% of the total waste we throw away. And when that waste sits in a landfill, it produces methane, which is a seriously potent greenhouse gas. So by composting, you're not just making free fertilizer for your garden, you're taking a huge direct action to protect the environment.
All right, let's get into the how-to. Section 1, the magic composting ingredients: browns, greens, water, and air.
You need all four of these essential elements to create the perfect environment for those hard-working microorganisms we just talked about. Without the right balance, the whole process just kind of stalls out. Now, scientists usually talk about the carbon to nitrogen ratio, which ideally should be around 25 to 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. But honestly, we can simplify that into a much easier concept: browns versus greens. Browns provide the carbon-rich, dry structure for energy. Greens provide the nitrogen-rich, fresh moisture for protein. So what exactly does that mean for your household waste? Let's look at common browns versus greens. For your browns, you're looking for dry, fibrous materials. Think dried autumn leaves, torn corrugated cardboard, straw, and shredded newspaper. For your greens, you want fresh, wet materials: fruit and vegetable scraps, grass clippings, and fresh garden trimmings. And here's a quick pro tip for you. Keep a small bin right under your kitchen sink. It makes collecting those green food scraps incredibly easy. Okay, so here is the crucial rule of thumb, the volume ratio. You want to aim for roughly 3 parts bulky browns to 1 part greens. Remember, browns are much lighter and bulkier than greens. I mean, a bucket of dried leaves weighs way less than a bucket of dense, wet food scraps, right? By using this 3-to-1 volume rule, you naturally hit that perfect scientific carbon to nitrogen ratio without ever needing to drag a scale out to your yard.
Now, just as important as what goes in is what stays out. You really want to memorize this no-go list. Do not compost meat, fish, or bones. No dairy products like butter or yogurt. No fats, grease, or oils. Absolutely no dog or cat feces because those can carry parasites, and keep out diseased plants and any glossy, heavily coated paper. Adding these items is just asking for trouble. They'll attract rodents and flies, cause awful odors, and they could potentially ruin your entire batch.
Moving right along to Section 2, Step-by-Step Composting Guide, Building the Lasagna.
This is your masterclass on where the magic actually happens. Step 1. You're going to start by laying down a coarse brown base, something like twigs or straw, about 4 to 6 inches deep. This elevates the pile and ensures you get good airflow right from the bottom. Step 2. Alternate 2 to 3 inch layers of your nitrogen-rich greens and your carbon-rich browns. You're basically building a giant earthy lasagna. Step 3. Make sure you add some water as you build each layer. And finally, Step 4. Always cover your pile with a tarp or a thick top layer of browns. This retains the heat, prevents flies, filters odors, and ensures your fresh food scraps are never left exposed on top.
Once your pile is built, you enter the maintenance phase. The golden rule here: keep it moist like a wrung-out sponge and turn it every 1 to 2 weeks. Moisture is absolutely critical because it helps transport nutrients within the pile. If you grab a handful of compost and squeeze it, a drop or two of water should come out. No more, no less.
Turning the pile, usually with a pitchfork, adds vital oxygen and brings the undecomposed outer edges right into the hot center. And get this, a well-maintained pile can reach temperatures between 130 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit. That is actually hot enough to slow cook an egg. Pretty crazy, right? Section 3. Troubleshooting common compost problems. How to fix a smelly or slow pile. Now, what if things go sideways? What if your pile starts to smell like rotten eggs, or it's just not heating up at all? Don't panic. Every problem has a simple fix. If your pile smells like ammonia or rancid butter, it means you have way too many greens or it's too wet and it's choking for oxygen. The solution? Just give it a good turn and mix in some dry, coarse materials like leaves or straw. On the flip side, if your pile is damp but won't heat up, it's probably lacking nitrogen. So toss in some fresh grass clippings or extra food scraps. It's really just about listening to what the pile is telling you and adjusting the balance. Section 4. Frequently asked questions. Sorting out the tricky items. Let's rapid fire through some everyday items that constantly confuse beginners. First up, coffee grounds and paper filters. This one trips everyone up. Even though coffee grounds look brown, they are actually a highly nitrogen-rich green. In fact, they have a ratio similar to animal manure. But the paper filter they brew in, that counts as a carbon-rich brown. So you can literally just toss the whole thing in together, knowing they perfectly balance each other out. What about hay versus straw? They look basically identical, but it is crucial to know the difference here. Hay is a nitrogen-rich green because it contains nutritious seeds and it's cut while the plant is still green. Straw, on the other hand, is a carbon-rich brown because it's literally just the dry, hollow stems left over after a grain harvest. So use green hay when you want to heat up your pile, but use brown straw when you need carbon and some fluffy structure. And what about your leftover breakfast eggshells? Well, eggshells aren't entirely neutral. They add fantastic calcium to your final compost, but they do not impact your green to brown ratio at all. Just a heads up, make sure to crush them up pretty finely, because whole shells can take over a year to break down in a standard backyard pile, but it's totally worth it. In our source study, community gardeners reported that crushing eggshells was the actual turning point for curing their garden's calcium deficiencies, allowing them to finally grow healthy, blight-free tomatoes. Finally, Section 5, harvesting and using compost. Claiming your black gold. So how do you know when your patience has finally paid off? Well, here are the distinct signs your compost is ready. It's going to have a really dark brown crumbly texture. It will smell beautifully earthy like a fresh forest floor, definitely not sour or rotten. The original materials you put in, they'll be completely unrecognizable. The pile will have stopped heating up even after you turn it, and it will have shrunk down to about 1/3 of its original size. Once you see all of this, you can sift it and mix 2 to 4 inches of it right into your garden beds to improve soil structure, retain water, and feed your plants. Now, real quick, before we wrap things up, please keep this important disclaimer in mind. Local regulations and conditions may vary. Always perform composting responsibly and in accordance with your local guidelines. You know, some neighborhoods or municipalities have specific rules about what types of bins you can use to deter wildlife, so just be sure to check those local rules out before you get started. All right, so here is the big question I want to leave you with. Are you ready to take action and turn your everyday household waste into a thriving ecosystem for your garden today? You have the knowledge, you know the ratios, and you know exactly how to troubleshoot. So start saving those kitchen scraps and begin your own sustainable composting journey right now. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.